It's not hard to get surprised looking at this meal. However, it looks common for a camp of the Nenets people of Taimyr. They get all necessary vitamins and nutrients by eating raw meat and blood of a freshly divided deer. Vegetables and fruit are not grown here in the poor tundra soil, with the warm weather of only 3 months a year. As a result, life of local people always depended on reindeer. In order to survive in this harsh environment, their ancestors tamed wild deer and connected their well-being with reindeer. Today, the technological progress is rapidly spreading into the most remote places of the planet. However, these people keep preserving the traditions and live the way their distant ancestors once lived. People of the reindeer habitation. The original places of residence of the Taimyr Nenets are the lands on the left bank of the lower reaches of the Yenisei. The right side of the river is occupied by Dolgan native people. The Nenets people are attached to the left bank of the river, and this was reflected in their customs. They sit down on the banks and walk a deer only from the left side, and Dolgan people always handle this from the right side. For a long time, the Nenets were reindeer herders, and therefore their past and present life is related with reindeer. Today, you can hardly see a nomadic family of reindeer herders in the tundra. This is typically a family of a mother and a father and their children. If a son gets married, he builds his own wood shelter, called balok, and continues to nomadize with his parents. When daughters get married, they join their husbands' families. Deer is a kind of money saving for Nenets. The number of deer identifies the income and well-being of the family. Despite snowmobile equipment used nowadays, deer still remains the most accessible and reliable transport for the Nenets in the northern off-road conditions. Deer is not fussy. They do not need gasoline, and they are low maintenance with minimal costs. Every day in the family of reindeer herders begins with a deer catch. A deer herd consists of deer for ride and for meat. Only deer for ride go in sleds, and Nenets know them by sight and can easily find among the numerous herds. You should not ride the same deer for 2 days in a row. Animals need to rest. Typically, only men are involved in catching deer. However, when a family is going to change a deer camp, women help drive deer on this day, because you need to quickly catch a lot of deer. No deer wants to work on its own free will. That's why it's not an easy task to catch them. As soon as deer sees a mout, a word for a catcher in the Nenets language, in a person's hand, they immediately start panicking and begin to circle around the camp. Following them in the snow is not an easy task. In this case, Deer chasing dogs provide a lot of help. These are small dogs looking like lap dogs. Small, woolly, and cute-looking creatures are actually great helpers for reindeer herders. Without these dogs, it would be impossible to put deer together, herd, and drive deer across the tundra. After all deer are caught, people go to their wood shelters for breakfast. The Taimyr Nenets, unlike the Nenets living in the western Siberia, use wood shelters in winter time instead of traditional teepees. This change came into their life during the Soviet era. A wooden shelter is a lightweight structure made of a wooden frame covered with deer skins. The shelter is placed on skis. Such a dwelling is much more comfortable and warmer in winter than a traditional teepee. There is a tin stove and some room for the family to eat and to sleep in the wooden shelter. A low table is placed on the floor, and people sit around it and have a meal. The diet of the Nenets is not particularly diverse. In winter, the Nenets consume a lot of deer meat and raw, uncooked frozen fish. This dish is called straganina. It helps to have a food that brings all kinds of vitamins and nutrients. For dessert, a family has a lot of black tea with sugar and bread or breadcrumbs. A meal does not last long. Upon finishing a meal, men harness deer and go out to look after deer. It's easier to watch a herd out in winter than in summer. In winter, mosquitoes do not bother deer, and they don't go far into the tundra. A big danger to deer at this time of year is wolves, which periodically raid the herd. As for women, their daytime duties are associated with home and family household. They bring ice and firewood, cook and sew clothes. Older kids assist them, and young kids entertain themselves. Nobody specifically takes care of them. The Nenets sew a variety of clothes, shoes, blankets, and sleeping bags from deer skin. Skin is used for the interior and exterior decoration of their homes. They weave lassos from the skinned deer and make buttons and knife handles from the horns of animals. National clothing is interesting enough. It has been tested for centuries, and no modern materials can be compared with the practicality and reliability of clothes made of reindeer skin. Malitsa is the main outwear of the Nenets. It is a coat with a hood and sleeves that is pulled over the head. The coat is made with fur inwards. The sleeves in the shoulders have a wide socket. It allows a free access to take out the necessary things from the inner clothes without removing a coat. When a man does not do anything but stands and talks, he usually takes out his hands out of the sleeves and holds them on his chest. Mittens are attached tightly to the sleeves. They are made of camus, the skin removed from deer legs. The Nenets usually put a shirt made of a thin but strong material, like topalin, on the malitsa. The Nenets have a footwear called bakari, decorated with colored hangings. Women wear a jacket called yagushka, with clasps on the front. It is familiar to a fur coat. When guests arrive, women put on their festive outfits and cover their heads with colorful scarves. It looks like a beauty contest or a national fashion show. The Nenets have a nomadic lifestyle and change their camps several times a month. They never stay long at one spot because deer constantly needs to change pastures. A family can easily leave camp at any time and go to another camp. Camp change is called argish, even without dismantling their homes. Winter argish is a kind of northern camel trophy. Surprises await at every turn. That's why the group is led by the head of the family, who knows the surrounding area best. He chooses the way and area of the future camp. Campsites are always different and are not used again for 10 years or more, because the vegetation eaten by deer in the camp should be fully restored. Having moved to a new place, the Nenets are free from the hassle of installing their dwellings. This is especially important during polar nights, when it is extreme cold and the weather can change for the worse at any time. Their shelter, balok, is a kind of a sled house, and it obviously has an advantage over a teepee. With the summer season, the Nenets leave their wooden shelters and start living in a traditional teepee. These are more convenient for transportation through the tundra in summer. Due to its design, a teepee is resistant to winds and its space can be easily adjusted. A teepee is dismantled and installed by women, though men can help as well if they are free from other work. A teepee consists of perches that are covered with so-called nooks, which are made of deer skin and roped with topolin on top. Topolin protects the skin from the rain, and it's never hot inside the teepee due to deer skin. There is a fireplace made to cook food in the center of the teepee. If smoke from the fire does not come out of the upper hole, the teepee entrance is open then. Due to smoke from fire, there are almost no mosquitoes or gnats in the teepee in summer. During summer, the Nenets move away from woods to open areas of the tundra, to where frequent winds blow. This way, they get away from the most terrible scourge for the deer. Mosquito time is a real disaster for deer. There is nowhere for the domestic deer to hide from them, except in the teepee. But that's a privilege. Reindeer herders have the hardest time at the first summer month, when mosquitoes reach its peak in tundra. Gnat can cause a complete exhaustion of deer. At this point, a man comes to help the deer. All people of a camp are involved in collecting green shrubs and peat. Reindeer herders set a fire and make smoke to protect deer from mosquitoes. There is a struggle among deer to take a closer spot to the source of smoke. Large deer always win, and young and newborn deer are left with faraway spots where smoke does not reach them. They have to run around the fire. winds arrive to tundra and blow mosquitoes away in the daytime, deer finally get a relief and can eat grass. Deer graze is handled by a shepherd in the herd. The duty is performed in shifts. There are 1 or 2 reindeer herders on duty during a shift. They manage the movement of deer, directing them along a certain route. During both summer and winter, the Nenets move around the tundra using a sled called nards, the runner of which are lined with plastic. The design of nards is specific and depends on their purpose. There are light, cargo, summer, winter, as well as men's and women's nards. Taimyr is considered to be a land of Nenets and also a land with the ancestral places of Dolgan, Nganasans and Enets native people. These are some of the smallest ethnic groups in our country. Today they live in villages scattered along the banks of the Taimyr rivers. The way of life their ancestors used to have are almost forgotten. It's a rare thing now to see nomadic Dolgans in the tundra. However, just 30 years ago, they bred domestic deer and moved over the lands of Taimyr. Those times are now reminiscent of the decayed nards, burial grounds, and fishing tools abandoned in the tundra. Every autumn, wild deer are shot in Taimyr. The natives are willing to be hired for this seasonal job. This is one of the few ways to make money in these places. Deer is usually shot during its autumn migrations on large rivers. Animals are shot directly in the water. Animal bodies are tied and transported by water to the compartment called rump, where animals are butchered. The process is fast and well coordinated. It's a real production line. The deer are skinned, gutted, and left hanging on the hangers until all the blood drains. After that, deer meat is placed in a natural refrigerator created in the permafrost. The temperature is about 10 degrees below zero in the underground south, where meat freezes. When the weather gets cold and rivers freeze, the frozen deer meat will be taken out by car via the winter roads. If there is no ice cell at the hunting area, deer carcasses is collected and taken out by helicopter. Deer meat is called olenina. It is a biologically complete, high-protein dietary product that contains many vitamins, macro and micro elements. In addition, olenina is environmentally friendly food because animals live in a clean, natural environment with no additives in their diet, unlike cattle grown at farms. Soon, deer will pass by, and winter will return to these places again. Seasonal workers will go back to their stone teepees, hoping that they will be lucky enough to get a job again next year. A new time of old traditions revival is gradually coming to Taimyr. People begin to return to their tundra original habitats and the way their distant ancestors once lived. As a proof that life still exists in this land, reindeer herders celebrate the holiday of spring, Hayro, each year in spring. They gather in their area villages, where they arrange various sport events and races on reindeer teams. Winners get their awards, but not all of them are suitable for life in the tundra. This is the way native people live in one of the remote corners of Russia. It's likely worth returning to the national roots. Children may feel luckier than their parents, as they are not familiar yet with the new temptations of civilization. And when they wake up in the morning in the tundra, they will not see a tracked, all-terrain vehicle in the distance. Instead, there will be a sled with a deer rushing around and carrying joyful news from the depth of the deer land.